Today's presentation is entitled De-escalation Techniques. Conflict is something we all struggle with from time to time, and it normally stems with communication breakdown. And communication breakdown can be described as lack of eye contact or being distracted, not paying attention, yelling, or hard to rationalize when we are emotional. So not letting other people finish their statement is also a way that we cannot be focused. It becomes extremely difficult when dealing with young people and or dealing with individuals who have a mental health diagnosis. So today's training summary, we're going to focus on verbal de-escalation techniques. So non-physical is the most important and not necessary for anyone to be injured as a result of a disagreement. 10 plus years ago, we did restraints within the behavioral health systems. It was legal at the time, but most kids wanted to be hugged, but they didn't know how to ask for it. Am I right? Many were injured during the process, both the adult as well as the child that we were providing the services for. That's why it got banned throughout the state of Maryland. So our objectives today that I'm going to go through one at a time is we're going to identify how to intervene early in an escalation and identification of environmental factors that can be manipulated, identification of replacement behaviors that can be taught and serve the same function as the problem. So really being strategic with young people and know we are always a level up. We are always smarter as the adult, as the professional, than the younger individuals that we are working with, because their brains aren't even fully developed at this stage. And then we're going to discuss ways to identify strengths and areas of growth. So having a holistic relationship with the child from a strength-based perspective and identifying what are they interested in and use what they're interested in as a way to leverage what we need from them so it can be a win-win situation for all involved. So what is verbal de-escalation? Verbal de-escalation is what we use during a potentially dangerous or threatening situation in an attempt to prevent a person from causing harm to us, themselves, or others. So essentially, you're playing the role as a negotiator. Without specialized trainings like CPI, we should never consider the use of physical force. If you do, be prepared for the consequences. Verbal de-escalation consists of tactics to help limit the number of staff who might be injured on the job. And it's used to reduce physical injury. It is a tactical approach. De-escalating positively. So here's some examples that I want to review. Use positive and helpful statements such as, I want to help you. Please tell me more so that I can better understand how to help you. Let's call Mr. Smith. I know he would be able to help with this. Put yourself on his or her side of finding a solution to the problem. Put yourself in their shoes. Residential group homes, residential treatment centers, abuse and neglect that individuals may have, helplessness, hopelessness, fear factors, all the roots of the anger of a lot of children that we're working with within this field. Also, the anxiety that they have with any stigmas associated with the behavioral health diagnosis. An important part for professionals to do is to be good listeners. Listening is super important. So 3 main listening skills that we as professionals in the behavioral health field have to pay attention to. So the first one is attending. So giving your physical and mental attention to another person. So nonverbal, leaning in, nodding, just to show that individual that you're connected with them. The next one is following. So making sure you are engaged by using eye contact. Use unintrusive gestures such as nodding your head, saying okay, or asking an infrequent question. And then reflecting, paraphrasing and reflecting, using feelings of the other person, so implementing some empathy, and listen when you are listening, right? So no other activities when listening, no television on, not checking your cell phone to see if somebody called you, checking your emails or text messages, no twirling or tapping a pen on the table. Multitasking is never good, and it shows that you're not listening. So it's difficult to do for me when I disagree with somebody, or you want to make sure that you're totally in tune to what that other individual is doing at all times, and really follow them and show that nonverbal communication. It goes a long way in those types of instances. So be an empathic listener. So these are some things to not do. Do not be judgmental. Do not ignore the person or pretend to be paying attention, because they'll pick up on this, especially children. Listen to what the person is really saying. Restate the message, clarify the message, repeat the message, be empathic, respect where that individual is coming from, and you want to also validate what that person shared. Try to establish rapport with the other person, connect with them. Don't go native. Don't over associate with that individual, because it could always be easy to have a story or a situation that you may have shared when you were in a similar situation as that other individual. And that's more self-serving, and it's not for that individual at that time. So really just be in tune to where that individual is and try to take them to where you want them to go. So introduction to body language. So 80 to 90% of our communication is nonverbal. It is very important to be able to identify exactly what we are communicating to others nonverbally. It's important to have that emotional intelligence to connect with folks that we're meeting with. You may be trying to de-escalate the situation by talking to the other person, but your body language may be showing a willingness to get physical. So you don't want to start beating on your hand or getting in somebody's face. You want to give that distance between that individual. You don't want to talk to somebody with bald fists. You don't want to have your eyebrows, scrunched down and you're saying, I'm really here for you and I really need you to calm down, but you're showing an image that you're not calmed down. It is also important that we recognize and understand the nonverbal cues from another person who has the potential of escalating. So it's very important to check that other person's mannerisms just as much as they're checking yours. You also want to look at their nonverbal gestures and body language as well. So staying on body language, when people are angry, they sometimes do not listen to the words that are being said. Remember the difference between hearing and listening. So often they do see and react to what you are saying with your body language. You must always be careful with the messages that you are sending. So be conscious of your nonverbals. People react to nonverbal communication. And a lot of times when people get angry, obviously they're very emotional, and their emotions kind of dictate how they engage with you. So let's review some tips from body language. So finger pointing may seem accusing or threatening. You don't want to be standing up on top of someone while they're sitting down and talking to them with your finger. That's going to put them on the defensive 110% of the time. Shoulder shrugging may seem uncaring or unknowing. Rigid walking may seem unyielding or challenging. So just kind of pacing back and forth, that may also be challenging and unpredictable from the other person's perspective. Jaw set, like clenching teeth, you are not open-minded to listening to his or her story. A natural smile is good. A fake smile can aggravate the situation. So use slow and deliberate movements. Quick actions may surprise or scare the other person. So also don't have a de-escalation conversation in a small room or rooms with easily movable objects. If individuals are working in a residential setting, one of the places that I always told folks throughout the years never to have any sort of de-escalation conversations would be in the kitchen, Why? Because you have sharp objects in there. It's a super dangerous place. Edges of stoves, tables, refrigerators, sinks. Never have those types of conversations in the kitchen. It's just too dangerous for all involved. Body language, continue. We want to talk about eyes right now. So one eyebrow raised, that equals sternness. Eyes open wide indicates that you are surprised. A hard stare equals threatening gestures. Nose to nose, toe to toe, all of these things can set off a physical altercation with someone. And you don't want to put someone on the defensive. Personal space, which is really, really important. And this is during conflict or not in conflict at all, but you always want to be able to express yourself, but also respect somebody's space. So invasions or encroachment of personal space tends to heighten or escalate anxiety. Note, personal space is usually 1.5 to 3 feet, far enough away so you cannot be kicked or hit. Look, we're in the middle of a pandemic. We know that, and we're pretty much trained at this point in our lives to stay 6 feet apart. Now, COVID has gotten better, but we still try to maintain that 6 feet distance just by nature right now. So 1 to 5 to 3 feet is kind of close to me, but we want to stay, that's the real maximum limit that you want to be close to someone. Do not touch a hostile person because they may interpret that as an aggressive action. Keep your hands visible at all times. You don't want the other person to misinterpret your physical actions as well. A challenging posture that tends to threaten another person and escalate any such situation could be face to face, nose to nose, toes to toe, eyeball to eyeball, touching and finger pointing. It sounds like, as I read these things and listen to it, it sounds like two boxers come to mind in the middle of the ring before the bell sets off. It's like setting off that type of environment where you have that challenging posture where things are really gonna, go to a negative place and be fisticuffs. So protecting yourself at all times. We as behavioral health professionals, we always want to be able to protect ourselves. The biggest thing that we have when we're in these types of volatile environments is that we want to go home safely. We want that other individual to always be safe. So while de-escalating another person, you want to be in a non-threatening, non-challenging, and self-protecting position. So slightly more than a leg's length away on an angle off to the side of the other person. Stay far enough away from that other person so that they cannot kick or grab you. Again, try to stay 6 feet away. Tone, volume, rate of speech, inflection of voice. You can be calm. You can calm individuals down with your voice, right? So speaking a little bit more calm, being a little bit more methodical, talking softer, enough so that they can hear you, but not in an elevated way that could really set them off. Look, I'm a New Yorker and I talk pretty fast. So I'm really conscious of my differences when I talk to other individuals. And I know where I come from, and being a New Yorker, having that rapid speech is acceptable because everything is so competitive. But the rate of speech and making it difficult for other individuals to follow can be very challenging. And that inflection of the voice, it can be really loud, again, interpreted as being loud and intimidating to the other person. So tone of voice goes a long way. So a lowered voice level may set a tone of anger, which could create fear or challenges. A raised voice may set a tone of anticipation or uncertainty, which may promote excitement or disruption. Speak slowly. This is usually interpreted as soothing. You see how I just did that? A controlled voice is one of calm and firmness, which promotes confidence in both parties. Humor may unintentionally offend someone and escalate the situation. Use humor sparingly and always direct humor towards yourself. Be very careful when attempting humor in this type of situation. Always be respectful to the other person. using words like please, thank you, Mr. or Miss. It indicates respect for that individual as well. Inflection of voice examples. What do these words mean? I didn't say you were stupid. I didn't say you were stupid. You see, we're putting that emphasis in red. Your brother said it. I didn't say you were stupid, but I did write it on the bulletin board. I didn't say you were stupid. I said your brother was stupid. I didn't say you were stupid. I said you were a complete idiot. So you see, it all depends on the inflections of where you put those words that is going to send that message to the other individual and what it could potentially be perceived as that other individual implying. So these are some tips. Remain calm, listen, and I mean really listen to that other individual. You want to be able to avoid the overreaction and validate. I understand why you might be upset. This does not indicate that you agree with them. You're just saying you understand that why they're upset at this point. Like it's really, you're validating this. So it's a really good point. Remove onlookers or relocate to a safer place. Onlookers can become either cheerleaders or additional victims. So send onlookers for help, watch for nonverbal clues or threats, bring in another trained person to assist whenever possible. And there is less chance of aggressive behavior if two people are talking to one another. So avoid the crowds, get the crowds out of there. People like to see a show, and just let them know that there's no show that they need to see there. De-escalating effectively. So to verbally de-escalate another person, you must open as many clear lines of communication as possible. Both you and the other person must listen to each other and have no barriers. Barriers of communication are things that keep the meaning of what is being said from being heard. These are just some communication barrier examples. Prejudging people, not listening, criticizing, name calling, engaging in power struggles, ordering, threatening, minimizing, and arguing. So de-escalation techniques. There are two concepts to remember. Number one, reasoning with an angry person is not possible. The first and only objective in de-escalating is to reduce the level of agitation so that the discussion can become possible. If someone's so much into their feelings, you're not going to have an opportunity to even talk to them. They're not listening to you. They're so focused on their emotions. The emotion is alpha at that moment. Number two, de-escalation techniques are inherently abnormal. They go against our natural fight or flight reflexes. To be effective, we must remain calm and centered. We need to be professionally detached. Therefore, these skills require practice to become useful, right? So that animalistic behavior is that fight or flight. Do we stay or do we leave? That's what we're innate to. The de-escalation techniques really comes right down the middle of the road. So we really have to train our brain and really kind of step outside of ourselves and really see the situation for what it is. Confrontation brings out our inner warrior, and we're ready to defend ourselves at any means necessary. So you really want to be conscious of yourself. Use of problem-solving skills. So ask, what will help right now? Be empathic. Reassure individuals that no harm will come to him or others. Avoid an argumentative stance. Offer help. Use or engage with that individual. Use stress management or relaxation techniques, or such as breathing exercises. Just in your nose, hold it, and then blow it out like you're blowing a candle out. Again, in your nose, blow it out like you're blowing out a candle, right? Don't crowd the individual. Give him or her their space. Offer them choices, two things that you want them to do. So you could wear your blue jacket or you could wear your red jacket. And I'm talking about if you're talking to your child first thing in the morning and they say that they don't want to wear a coat to go to school and it's like 5 degrees under zero. Hey, you can wear your blue jacket or you could wear your red jacket. But in your mind, you're thinking, either way, you're going to wear a jacket and you're going to be warm. You're not going to come home with a cold, but you're giving them that option, which is allowing them to feel like they have some control. Use open-ended questions. Give the individual time to think as well. Precipitating factors. So loss of personal power, being able to maintain self-esteem, fear. They're scared of something, right? So change could be something that a lot of young people are scared with. Some adults are even scared with this. Parents going out of town for business and they're being left with one parent that is not the chef of the house, or going over to a family member's house. So it could be different things associated with that fear, but these are all examples of why children go off. Failure. So a child could receive a poor grade and this can make them really upset and really volatile. Seeking attention. Again, back in the days about 20 years ago when I first started working in the industry of behavioral health, we did restraints and it was indeed legal. But a lot of those times, a lot of those kids just wanted that affection. They wanted to have me give them a hug. And I told them many times, look, you don't have to, flip over a table or do something that could potentially hurt yourself or someone else. If you want a hug, you ask me for a hug. And if it's appropriate at the time, I can give you a hug, right? A lot of times it's displaced anger. So angry, they could be angry with someone else. It's not with you, but it's just a part of their pathology. Psychological or physiological causes can also be the cause of these precipitating factors in terms of why children and some adults go off. These are just some indicators, some signs of agitation from these individuals. A raised voice, rapid speech, high-pitched voice, fidgeting, shaking. Again, those balled fists is always going to mean that they're ready to get in the middle of that boxing ring. Erratic behaviors, wild gesturing, pacing, aggressive posturing as well. So some nonverbal techniques. These are things to model nonverbal behavior. So control your breathing, right? That's something that we have control over. Folks could be yelling at us, screaming at us, cursing at us, but if you can control your breath, you have that under control, and that can also help you with how you respond to those individuals' behavior. Control your voice. Again, the volume and tone. Control your body language and control your vocabulary. Again, you don't want to go native. If a kid or a client starts cursing at you, you don't want to respond by cursing back at them because it's not professional. So always remember, calm is just as contagious as fear or panic in these volatile situations. Nonverbal techniques continued on. Appear calm and self-assured. Select an appropriate location. Maintain limited eye contact. Maintain a neutral facial expression. Maintain an alert posture. And keep your hands to yourself. Speak soothly again. Position yourself for safety. Position yourself for safety. So be at eye level with that individual, right? You want to stay at the same height. You don't want to be talking down to somebody and looking at them, pointing your finger at them. Angle yourself within a 45-degree angle. Manage your distance and keep the exit clear as well. So you can leave, they could leave, someone else can come in. You don't want to be blocking the door and have them feeling like they are being trapped. Disregard content, focus on calming, use slow and low tones of voice, do not interrupt, do not become defensive, respond selectively, be honest, empathize with feelings and not behaviors, and do not analyze emotions, do not attempt to argue or persuade, and identify external controls as institutional. And you also don't want to bring your personal issues to the workplace when you're working with these individuals. If you had an argument with your loved one, you don't want to bring that to one of your clients because it's not professional. It's like leave that in the car before you get to work. Simple listening skills. When we talk about verbal techniques, again, listen to them, right? And nod. Don't interrupt. If someone is venting, let them vent. Let them get it all out. We want to use some active listening skills. So we also want to say I statements when we're talking about ourselves. I feel like this. I felt. We want to give open-ended questions, right? Ask them open-ended questions so that they can give you the story in terms of how they saw some things from their perspective. Mirroring, which is really important. It's a great skill, and this is used a lot in therapy. Meeting with the client, and the client is, you're making eye contact with that individual, and they slowly, grab onto their head like this with their finger, like, they're thinking. If it's appropriate at that time, you can slowly, gradually do the same thing as them, and you're showing that you're being in alignment with them. You're really getting connected with them. Paraphrasing. So listening to what they shared with you, but then repeating it in a different way to really affirm how they feel and getting confirmation that that is what they actually meant. And again, don't forget about that body language, because body language definitely speaks volumes and tells a lot about how you feel, and it can contradict. Make sure that it's not contradicting with what's coming out of your mouth. Responsive listening skills, acknowledging, apologizing, being human, right? Because we all make mistakes. So don't be ashamed to say, look, I messed up. I made a mistake. I'm so sorry. It's giving someone that respect too. Agreeing with them when it's appropriate. Inviting criticism. What do you think I should have done differently that could have helped this situation? Don't forget that tone of voice, right? Making sure you got that tone of voice under control. And also, when in doubt, just speak slowly. Just take your time, and that'll help you go a long way. So this ending de-escalation. So when the person has finally calmed down, you can then begin to address their individual situation in the same patient and professional manner that you have already displayed. Or trust your instincts. If the de-escalation is not working, stop. Close the conversation and escort the person out. Contact campus police, contact another colleague, contact the supervisor if the person refuses to leave, because you always want to be able to take care of yourself and keep everybody safe. Ask for help. So alert someone else as soon as possible. No help will arrive until someone else knows your situation. So until then, you are all alone. And sometimes you just have to leave that situation. Never put someone in a situation, or never tell someone rather, to be in a situation that could be potentially volatile. Like, no one's going to win. It's okay to walk away from that situation or to run away from that situation. When my team at Therapeutic Connections, I always tell them to really be, put that themselves, their body, their person is the number one priority. But if you do have someone else there, always remember that two heads are always better than one. Sometimes another colleague can give you their perspective on things. There is safety numbers. So it's good to have safety in numbers. So two staff, two professionals, and one client that may have a history of being volatile is always important. And speaking on numbers, always have the number to your local crisis hotline in your phone. Even working with parents, I make sure that my team always let the parent know, and the client for that matter, if they're in having a behavioral health crisis, what number they should call to get connected to the crisis hotline, but have that number in their cell phone so they can either make a verbal phone call or just press the number and call them directly, versus going through business cards or trying to go in the kitchen and get the information from the refrigerator. So it'll be beneficial to have a witness. If the situation deteriorates and someone is injured, it's always good, especially when you're doing those incident reports. Notification and follow-up. always report minor situations. Minor situations can be a cry for help and or warning signs of bigger things to come. Minor situations can lead to major situations. After any confrontation, advise or direct the person to counseling if possible. Always document everything, threatening event. Documentation will help us all parties when evaluating reoccurring events. And these are the things that you absolutely should not do, folks. Avoid becoming emotionally involved. Control your emotions at all times. Avoid engaging in power struggles. Avoid becoming rigid in your process. Avoid telling the other person that you know how he or she feels. Don't do that because you really don't know. Because again, you don't know what they've experienced again. Like those examples I gave in the first couple of slides. Kids may have been abused physically, sexually, starved, beaten, been to 30 plus foster homes, group home facilities. You don't know what they experienced. So you don't know how they feel and what got them to this point of frustration. This could be that tipping point. Avoid raising your voice, cursing, making threats, giving ultimatums or demands. Avoid aggressive language, including body language. Do not attempt to intimidate a hostile person at all. And the very last of this de-escalation technique presentation, after your personal safety is secured, there are several other steps that must be taken. So intervention must occur to end the situation. If that has not yet occurred, this may be accomplished by, again, getting supervisors to come in, security or the police, depending on the circumstances. Make sure your appropriate chain of command has all of the facts. You should receive medical treatment for any physical injuries. Counseling for post-traumatic stress and fear resulting from the incident may be appropriate based on the situation. And lastly, look at steps to be taken to prevent other similar situations from occurring in the future. So although we don't want to experience these types of situations at all, sometimes they're inevitable, and it's what we take from those experiences to minimize experiencing them in the future. So I hope this presentation on de-escalation techniques helped you, and I wish you the best. Thank you so much.